In Lesson 2.1, we will have an introduction to integers. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to answer the following questions. What is an integer? What is a positive number? And what is a negative number? Integers, by definition, are whole numbers and their opposites. We've talked about whole numbers before. Whole numbers begin with the number 0 and continue forever and ever, going up by whole amounts. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on are whole numbers. Opposites of whole numbers are located on the opposite side of the number line. So the numbers over here are opposites of whole numbers. So the opposite of 0 is just 0, because there is no opposite of having nothing. The opposite of 1 is negative 1. The opposite of 2 is negative 2. The opposite of 3 is negative 3, and so on, going smaller and smaller to the left of 0. Positive numbers are numbers that are greater than 0. Zero itself is not positive or negative. It has no value. Anything with a value greater than 0 is said to be positive. Negative numbers are less than 0. So they have a value that's smaller than 0. So if we have a positive value, let's say we have positive 2, that means we have 2 items. If we add 2 negative values to those, each positive and each negative cancels each other out. So this now has no value. A positive and a negative have no value, and that is similar to having a value of 0. Okay, similarly, this also has no value anymore, or a value of 0. Okay, so anytime a positive joins a negative, they cancel each other out to have no value. Another meaning for the negative sign. We've kind of already talked about this, but I want to make sure that you truly understand what it means. When you look at this number, you might think automatically that it's a negative 3, and that's true. So this can be read negative 3. It can also be thought of as the opposite of 3. So if the number 3, let's see, if the number 3 is right here, the opposite of 3 means it's going to be 3 on the other side of 0. So this here is 0. 3 in the opposite direction brings us to negative 3. So positive values go to the right. So positive 3 is 3 to the right of 0. And the opposite of that, or negative values, go to the left of 0. So negative 3 and 3 are said to be opposites. Let's look at some examples. If we have to plot and label the following numbers on a number line. We have a number line given to us. and we have to plot the first number, which is -3. So A is -3. So if I start at 0 and move to the left 3, because negatives are to the left, this point right here is -3, which is A. If I wanted to plot a +8, I would move 8 in the positive direction. So that has a value of 8, which is B. C has a value of -5. Which way do you think we will move to get to -5? If we think about our number line, positives are to the right, negatives are to the left. So for -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -5 is that point right there, and that's C. What about the opposite of 9? If we have to plot the opposite of 9, what number would that be? So opposite, we just talked about, is another word for negative. So the opposite of 9 is -9. So if I had to move -9, I would start at 0. 1, 2. Now we get all the way over here to -9, which is my answer to D. The opposite of -1 is what we're asked to plot for E. -1 is 1 to the left of 0. Because I know my negatives are on the left. So that means the opposite of -1 has to go to the right one, and that would be a +1. So we're going to plot the opposite of -1, which is +1, which means 1 to the right, and that would be our answer for E. Lastly, if we had to plot where 0 was, 0 is that point right where we start in the middle of our number line, and that would be our answer for F. So part of what you're going to be asked to do on your assignment is, on a number line, take a value and plot where it is. Or maybe take the opposite of a value and make sure you know where that is. Okay, so remember, positives get bigger as you move to the right. Negatives get smaller as you move to the left. We'll talk about that a little more on the next example. You have to decide which quantity is greater than or less than the other. One concept that I want to make sure we talk about is, as you get further from 0, the positive numbers get more positive or bigger, and the negative numbers get more negative or smaller. So if we have our positive numbers going to the right of 0, okay, and continuing forever and ever to the right of 0, they're going to get bigger. On the other hand, if we look at the numbers to the left of 0, which are negative, they're going to continue forever and ever to the left of 0 and get smaller. So if I have a -2, that's less than 0, that's negative. But -5 is even smaller than -2. Okay? I like to think of positive and negative numbers in terms of money. If you lost $2, that's not good. If you lost $5, that's even worse. That means you lost more. You have less. Okay? So the number itself, the 5, is bigger than the 2, but because it's negative, Okay, because it's getting smaller as that number gets bigger. -5 is less than -2. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these greater than or less than problems. We've got a -4 and a 7. So -4 is right here. +7 is right there. So if I had to pick a sign, is -4 greater than, which is that symbol, or less than, which is that symbol? 7. -4 is smaller to the left, so we would do less than 7. Similarly, we have to do 3 and 1. So if we have to plot where 3 and 1 are, 3 is here, 1 is here. They're both positive, but 3 is more than 1, so 3 is greater than 1. -6 and -2. Both of these numbers are negative. I plot -6, that's right here. If I plot -2, that's right here. -6 and -2, like I said before, are both negatives. Okay? 6 is bigger than 2, but that means 6 has more negatives than -2. So -6, remember, is smaller than -2 because as you are working with negative numbers, they get smaller to the left. So -6 is less than -2. You can pause the video at this point and see if you can put the symbols in for 4 and 5, and then we'll go through those two problems in a moment. Okay, so we have -5 and -10. Both are negative. -5 is there. -10 is here. -10 is further away from 0, more to the left of -5. Even though 10 is bigger than 5, when we're talking about negatives, -10 is smaller or more negative than -5. So that means -5 is greater than -10. -5 is closer to the positive values than -10 is. Last one, we have 8 and -8. A positive number and a negative number. Positive numbers are always going to be bigger than negative numbers. All positive numbers are bigger than all negative numbers. So in this case, +8 is greater than -8. We will continue to work on these concepts in class, and if there are any questions, I can answer them at that time. Thank you for watching this video.